Quit. Here it is. Sorry, y'all. So many screens. All right, Lee, take it away.
On screen, for God sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. Exterior of Technotics Foundation building, daytime. People are coming and going into a small office building off the main boulevard. Internal office building. Norm, 50, walks briskly past numerous cubicles manned by phone agents, then to an open office door marked Trevor Rutledge, Assistant Director. Norm knocks and walks in. Interior Trevor's office, day. Trevor Rutledge, 30, talking on the phone, looks up, waves to Norm.
Your project will receive more than standard promotion. Our foundation will supply the core funding, will expose your invention to educators, scientists, and top engineers around the world.
Norm meanders about the office, scanning the books on his shelf.
Listen, if you're serious about impacting society for generations to come, trust Technotics to take you there.
Norm approaches Trevor's desk, picks up a framed picture, and stares at it for a bit.
Fine. That's fine.
Been long days, but
Uh, yes, San Francisco. Good luck.
Trevor hangs up, looks up at Norm.
Hey, Norm. What's up?
In case you hadn't heard, the banquet has been moved up to 7:30 instead of 6:30, so make a note.
Better let Stefan know.
Already done. Can't hand a $1 million check to a no-show.
Norm, still fixated on the framed photo, sees a younger Travis seated at a table, snuggling an attractive woman in her 20s, only one side of her face visible. She wears a cross necklace.
Gotta tell you, Trevor, your wife's a real looker. I mean, drop dead off the charts gorgeous.
Thank you, Norm.
Norm sets the picture back onto the desk.
You and Amanda been married, what, 5 years? And I still haven't met her? You won't even bring her to our Christmas parties.
She's a little shy. Not much for socializing.
Too bad. Her appearance could be bigger than Stefan's award. By the way, you're the presenter.
Why me?
He's your discovery, and you're the only one who can pronounce his project. Molecular
Ionic displacement.
Yeah, that's it. Tell me something. How did you test his invention?
He transported himself back in time on 3 occasions.
That's remarkable. Did it work?
He's here.
Of course, of course.
Norm turns for the door.
His invention will take Technotics into the stratosphere.
And make history.
Exterior of an office building in the afternoon. Trevor leaves the building, putting on his jacket, waves to his coworker, and heads for the parking lot. Exterior Trevor's car in the afternoon. Stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on a metropolitan freeway, Trevor rests his head on his hand. Exterior Trevor's home, late afternoon. He pulls into a dirt driveway of a rural home surrounded by much acreage. Interior of Trevor's home, late afternoon. Trevor tiptoes into the kitchen where Amanda Rutledge, 28, her back to him, is preparing dinner. He comes up behind her, clasps his hands over her eyes. She laughs, puts down the silverware.
Hey, I never heard you come in.
Trevor removes his hands and spins her around. The right side of her face is marred with scar tissue, burn marks that go from her forehead down her cheek all the way to her neck. Trevor gasps.
You changed your hair.
Auburn highlights. I hope you like it.
I love you just the way you are.
He kisses her, moves to the fridge, and takes out a Coke.
How was work?
He drinks, watches her prepare dinner.
The new computers came in today.
Finally.
Oh, Amelia. We didn't cast her. Let's see, is there like Jenny? Do you want to take on Amelia? Or Shannon? Okay, for the moment, I'm going to. I can whip through that mailing. Oh, Sonia, you will. Sonia, can you take Amelia? I don't know how many she has, but
I think it's supposed to be Amanda.
Yeah, I think it's a typo.
got it. Thank you. Should have caught that earlier. Okay, I can whip through that mailing list now and print the church bulletins with cool graphics.
He peers down at her creation.
What you making?
Chicken cordon bleu with creamy Parmesan risotto and steamed broccoli.
You keep cooking like that, and our company will never leave.
Trevor leans into her from across the island to kiss her. He brushes against the sauce, gets it all over his arm.
Let's get out of my kitchen.
He plucks sauce from his arm and playfully smears the scarred side of her face. She squeals. As she starts to wipe it off, he stops her, stares at her perfect face for a few moments, then lets her remove the sauce. Internal dining room in the evening. Trevor and Amanda sit across the table from Mitch and Gail, early 30s, dinner plates and crumbs scattered in front of them, the mood light and jovial.
You're kidding.
No, really.
What was he doing in there?
Going to the bathroom, I guess.
Wait. Pastor Gary just walked right into the ladies' room.
It was an accident.
How could he not know?
It was the new church building.
Freshly painted.
Right. All the signs were down.
I get it.
So what did you do when you saw him?
Scream.
What'd he do?
Prepare a sermon on signs of the time.
We laugh all the time with you guys.
We love spending time with you.
Well, we do too.
Which is why Gail and I would love it if you would join us on a cruise to Cozumel. You guys work so hard, we thought it'd be a nice getaway. What do you say?
What do you think?
Well, I don't know.
I've never been on a plane or outside the country. I don't even have a passport.
It's a fantastic package. Royal Caribbean rates can't be beat.
And it'd be good for Amanda.
What is that supposed to mean?
Oh, it's it's just that you two never take a vacation.
Yeah, you guys are kind of isolated out here in the boonies, and
Yeah.
Out here. Okay, we're happy with our life.
hey, man, sorry. We didn't mean anything by it.
Would a cruise be Amanda? Does she need to socialize more? What, flaunt her scars to the world?
Mitch and Gail fidget awkwardly and turn away.
We appreciate your concern, but this is not the right time.
Long, uncomfortable silence.
Trevor, what does Amanda think about the idea?
I don't have to ask.
I'd
Sure.
like to go on a cruise.
Honey, you're not ready.
10 years is a long time. I'm ready.
You don't need to prove anything to anyone. I love you just the way you are.
Do you accept me the way I am?
What's the difference?
Internal front door in the evening. Trevor and Amanda smile, watching Mitch and Gail walk to their car.
Thanks again.
See you Sunday.
Everyone waves. Trevor closes the door. He turns and looks at Amanda, smiling.
What?
He puts his arm around her and walks her to the hall closet, removes her jacket, and hands it to her. She stares back blankly.
I'm taking you out for an ice cream sundae.
You mean out?
Yes, out.
Why?
You need to savor that butterscotch syrup in an actual ice cream parlor.
Amanda hugs him tightly. Internal ice cream parlor evening. Trevor and Amanda sit at one of the tables near the checkout counter. Amanda is beaming while enjoying her sundae. Trevor, with his own ice cream, watches her carefully.
So we chatted on Facebook, the first time we've talked in nearly 5 years.
Wasn't Phoebe your best friend?
She should have been. Everyone else deserted me but Phoebe. Phoebe helped me through those times.
She dips in another spoonful, relishes the experience.
I feel like I'm 7 years old again.
You look amazing.
I do?
A young couple with two little kids turn from the checkout with their ice cream and search for a table. The parents notice Amanda and gasp. Both children, horrified by Amanda's appearance, walk clear of their table, keeping their distance.
What happened to her? Just find a table, honey.
She looks like a monster.
Shut up. Keep moving.
They disappear to the back. Amanda is trembling. Her spoon drops to the floor. Trevor takes her hand, whispers soothing words. With tears streaming down her face, Amanda leans forward.
Can we just go?
He helps her from the table and walks her to the door. She glances at the back and sees one of the kids watching her. He makes a monster face, grunting like Frankenstein. The father slaps the top of his head, yanks away his ice cream. Internal, car, parked, evening. Trevor and Amanda sit, Amanda quietly sobbing.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have brought you here.
I deserve this.
What?
I deserve this.
Why would you say that?
A reminder of all the bad things I've done.
Bad things. You're the most godly person I know.
You don't know me.
She wipes her eyes. Then she straightens up, fastens her seatbelt, stares ahead. He continues watching her till she turns to him and smiles.
I'm okay.
She reaches over and grabs his hand. He starts the car. Internal living room, evening. Trevor sits on the couch while Amanda lies next to him, her head in his lap. Logs in the fireplace are aflame, gently crackling, as they stare into the fire in silence. He gazes down at her, strokes her hair. His eyes wander off as he reminisces. Internal banquet hall. A wedding party dances to live music. Trevor, 5 years younger, carrying a glass of champagne, walks past a table where Amanda, 23, leaning her head on her hand, concealing the scarred side of her face, watches the dancers. Trevor passes her table, stops, looks back at Amanda, then walks backward till he's directly in front of her. He smiles flirtatiously. She gestures with her left hand that he's blocking the view. Trevor quickly scoots out of the way. Then she gestures in the opposite direction. He pivots back where he started. She flicks her fingers again and he jolts forward, spilling champagne on his shirt. Amanda giggles. He steps up to her table, stops in front of her.
Glad I could indulge you.
It's obviously why you're not on the dance floor, Klutzo.
But why aren't you out there?
I'm protecting the bride's purse.
Well, someone needs to protect you. Make sure some klutz doesn't sit next to you or ask you out, or
You don't want to do that.
please indulge me.
Trevor moves toward the chair beside her, starts to sit, but stops.
Are you with anyone?
Just the bridal party.
He sits down, sets his glass aside, and sticks out his hand.
Trevor Lutledge. How you doing?
She stares at his outstretched hand a few moments. Then, with her right hand still plastered against her face, she extends her left hand.
Amanda Mooney.
He chuckles, shakes her hand. Later, while couples slow dance, Trevor and Amanda sit alone at the table, chatting, laughing. The entire time, Amanda's hand never leaves the side of her face. Still later, Trevor stands beside his chair, shaking hands with members of the wedding party, starting to leave the table as they return. He leans in toward Amanda.
I'll call you tonight if that's okay.
She nods emphatically. He gently moves away, their eyes never leaving each other. When Trevor is out of sight, the girls excitedly gather around Amanda, eager to hear about her new heartthrob. Back to the living room in present time. A log in the fireplace breaks off and falls into a shower of sparks. Startled, Amanda gasps, rising up from Trevor's lap. He comforts her until she settles back down onto his lap. He watches her closely until she's calm.
Does Amanda Mooney work here?
Internal church office, daytime. Trevor stands at the office entrance with a handful of roses. A lady smiles and points. He makes his way to the desk behind her. Amanda is typing, her head down. Trevor stands over her a few moments till she senses his presence. She stops typing and looks up. Her face immediately brightens. Trevor gasps and backs into a trash can, making a racket. Amanda's smile droops. She slumps in her chair. Recovering quickly, Trevor lunges to her desk and holds out the roses.
It's me, Trevor the Klutz. I couldn't wait to see you again.
She manages a smile, reaches for the roses, her eyes focused behind him. Trevor turns and sees 2 or 3 other office workers, watching them with hopeful faces.
Are you busy tonight?
Amanda sniffs the roses, holds them close to her chest. She looks up at him, tears filling her eyes, and she smiles. Back to the living room, present time. Trevor sees Amanda is sleeping. He smooths the hair from around her face, caresses her smooth skin. Internal Trevor's office, daytime. Trevor is seated at his desk, punching the computer keyboard. Norm walks in, followed by Van Garrett, 60s, sharp dresser, distinguished. Norm instantly goes to the framed photo of Trevor and Amanda and picks it up. Trevor stops typing and immediately shoots up from his chair.
Mr. Garrett, how are you, sir?
Nice to meet you, Trevor. Call me Van.
Norm shows Van the picture.
This is her.
Van studies the photo for some time.
What'd I tell you?
Van nods, returns the photo to the desk.
Trevor, my apologies for barging in unannounced.
Sir, you weren't barging.
Well, go ahead and sit down.
Trevor sits. Norm folds his arms, watching. Van sits on Trevor's desk and faces him, speaking gently, congenially.
Trevor, have you noticed we're all on a first name basis here?
Yes, sir, I have.
Van.
Yes, Van.
That's by design because I want to know each employee personally. I want to feel I'm surrounded by family and for them to feel the same. In that vein, I'm not just Technotic's founder and your supervisor, think of me as a patriarch. Do you follow me so far?
Yes, Van, I do.
Family is very important to me, Trevor. Unfortunately, I don't feel you're entirely on board with my vision for the company.
Van, I assure you, sir, I'm a team player. 100%.
Van gets up and walks over to Trevor, stares down at him, smiling.
Trevor, I'm not looking for a team player. I want a family member. Open your life to me, your home, your family.
He reaches for the photo, holds it in front of Trevor.
That's how it should be. One big happy family. Because when you avoid gatherings, it makes me feel you're ashamed of your family.
No, sir. I'm definitely not ashamed, Van, sir.
Good to hear.
And
Oh, and Trevor, congratulations on finding Stephen. Outstanding work.
Thank you, Van. Thank you.
Van turns for the door, Norm following.
Looking forward to meeting Amanda.
Norm gives Trevor a nod of approval, disappears out the door. Trevor leans back in his chair, rocking back and forth, staring at the photo on the desk. Thinking, rocking and thinking, staring at the photo and thinking. Suddenly, he ejects from the chair, goes to the door, and closes it. He sits back down and grabs his cell phone. He searches his contacts, finds Stephen, dials the number. Trevor reaches out and turns the photo face down on the desk. Exterior, City Park, daytime. Trevor and Mitch sit on a park bench, huddled in grave discussion. Trevor near tears.
He was driving.
Her boyfriend?
No, some high school jock. He'd been drinking and he ran into a tree. The car burst into flames. Her clothes caught on fire and she couldn't get the door open.
Dear God.
She fell out, rolled on the ground.
What happened to the guy?
He died before being incinerated.
I don't believe this.
Trevor fights the tears. Mitch puts his arm around him.
Then the skin grafts and pain, months of healing.
I had no idea.
Trevor turns to Mitch.
But Mitch,
I'm so sorry, my friend.
Mitch, I can fix this.
Huh?
I found a way to make sure it didn't happen.
I don't understand.
Listen to me. I know a particle physicist who can send me back that night 10 years ago and prevent that accident from ever happening.
Why are you doing this?
I know this sounds Mitch, but the science does exist. It's out there.
Sure, in Hollywood.
No, in a modified warehouse about 15 miles from here.
All right, all right. Let's pretend you're not seriously demented about time travel as possible. You realize that you're changing the will of God?
I know. I've thought of that many times. So in scientific terms, I am just setting things right.
You don't need to change anything. She's perfect like she is.
What are you, blind?
Mitch stands up, gazes out across the park. Trevor watches him.
I wish we'd never had this conversation.
Trevor stands up and looks him in the eye.
If this works, then this conversation will never have happened.
I pray for your sanity.
Mitch walks away. Interior church office during the day. Trevor, dressed in a suit and tie, stands beside Amanda's desk, watching her arrange a bouquet of roses.
An ice cream outing, delivering roses in a business suit. What's going on?
Change is in the air, Amanda.
Aw, I don't need change. I'm happy with everything, especially you.
She kisses him.
I love you, Amanda. I do. And I want you to know
He struggles to find the words.
What, babe? What is it?
everything's going to be okay. You'll see.
He kisses her forehead, then turns to leave. She watches him with much concern. Interior, Stefan's warehouse lab, daytime. Gadgets and state-of-the-art technology fill this spacious chamber. Stefan Botkin, 30-ish, long hair, wearing clothes he probably slept in, gives Trevor a tour of his molecular displacement machine. He speaks with an unusual accent. An aluminum chair, wired at several points to a console with blinking lights, sits beneath a large V-shaped metal arch.
How do you pick the coordinates?
Yes, coordinates are determined by two factors: GPS location and configuration of the stars.
You can find the location of stars 10 years ago?
Computer already knows each star's path. It calculates their position at any given time in history.
How do I let you know when I've finished? You know, when I'm ready to return?
This phone is encoded with an obsolete number from 14 years ago and is programmed to interface with my computer. When you finish your business, return to the location you arrived and press 9513. Double asterisk.
What if I forget the...
I've written it below. See? Are there any other questions?
None that I can think of right now. I may run into some later.
To tell you the truth, I'm sorry. Continue.
It shouldn't come. Oh. To tell you the truth, I'm scared to death.
But it shouldn't come to that. But just joking. Just joking.
Stefan sits him down in the chair. Then he opens a nearby wooden chest and removes a white bodysuit similar to a hazmat suit.
So I don't have to go naked.
You watch too many movies. Suit is lined with radioactive silver that enables me to track your exact location. Wear it there and back.
But I take it off when I get there.
Yes, but hide it somewhere when you arrive. But do not lose it, or I will lose you.
Stefan helps Trevor pull the bodysuit over his clothes. Lastly, he sets a helmet over his head and latches it to the neckline, leaving the glass visor open. Stefan hooks wires to key areas of the bodysuit, flips on the defragmentizer. Loud humming sound. The V-shaped arch starts to glow. The warehouse lights flicker and dim. Then he punches data into the computer keyboard.
Okay, I send you back 10 years to Montclair High School, October 17th, 10:05 p.m., homecoming night. Remember, you only have 13 minutes.
Why 30 minutes?
The computer must reboot the Constellation system every half hour. You can convince her not to drive the car, yes?
She's my wife. I know her.
Safe journey.
Bond closes the helmet visor, steps back to the machine. He gives Trevor a thumbs up, and Trevor returns the signal. Stefan pulls the main switch. Bright light, small explosion of atoms. Trevor disappears. Interior, school restroom stall. Trevor, still 30, wearing the bodysuit, suddenly appears on the toilet in a sitting position. He slips off onto the floor. Clumsily, he gets up, peeks outside the stall in both directions. No one there. He removes the helmet and frantically starts peeling off the bodysuit. It comes off easily. He rolls it into a ball, picks up the helmet, and searches for a place to stash it. He flings out several feet of wet paper towels from the garbage can, crams the suit and helmet into the bottom, then covers them with paper towels. Trevor checks his reflection in the mirror, straightens his tie, then walks out the door. Interior school corridor. He makes his way for the exit sign. An angry girl student stomps down the hall in his direction.
Excuse me, where can I find Amanda Mooney?
Amanda
He
Mooney.
stops and
Yes, yes,
You a cop?
I'm a detective.
What goes around comes around.
he walks down the hall.
Wait, where is she?
The Queen is holding court.
She disappears into the restroom. Trevor turns for the exit. Exterior, school bleachers, evening. Trevor meanders past the bleachers, across the grass, scanning the area, fighting the post-game student traffic. He sees a convertible parked at the edge of the field, decked out with balloons and a banner. Homecoming Queen and Court, the banner reads. 3 girls wearing sashes and crowns sit in the car, talking with a couple of male students. Trevor heads for the car, hearing laughter and flirtatious chatter. The homecoming car. Trevor spots Amanda. He freezes, fascinated. He watches her for a few moments. Her face is smooth and perfect. She wears the queen's crown. Suddenly, Susie, 18, runs past Trevor, bawling pitifully, zipping toward the car.
You have no right.
Amanda sits up tall and defiant.
Look who's here, guys. The Montclair slut.
Susie lunges at her, tries to yank the crown from Amanda's head.
You lost your chance, Susie. Deal with it.
The group laughs, mocking Susie with a catfight sounds. One of the princesses, Phoebe, 17, wearing a cross necklace, does not participate in the mistreatment of Susie. Susie and Amanda continue to tussle until Amanda jumps from the car and shoves her to the ground.
Phoebe. Allison, would you be Phoebe right now?
Come on, Amanda. Leave her alone.
Piss off. I'm tired of your preaching.
Susie gets up and faces Amanda.
You stole that crown. You lied to get it. They should take it away.
You slept with your teacher and got pregnant and got an abortion. Who's going to listen to you?
Whoa.
Whoa.
They'll listen to her because she never lies.
Who? Who are you talking about?
Amanda thinks for a moment, figures it out. She turns toward the car with fiery eyes. Phoebe stands strong.
A traitor in my court.
You told me you were going to start a rumor.
Phoebe, I trusted you.
But I can't go along with this. It's wrong.
You're a self-righteous freak.
Quickly turns to the rest of the group.
Doesn't matter. I'm the queen. That's all that matters.
Amanda storms off, brushes past Trevor. She turns back and faces them again.
I am the queen.
She stomps away. Trevor calls out to her. Amanda stops, turns, looks him over.
Well, spit it out.
Amanda, I'm shocked. Why would you spread ugly rumors like that?
Me? You got the wrong girl.
She starts walking away. Trevor runs after her, grabs her arm.
Okay, this is important. We have to talk.
Are you a teacher here?
No.
Then what do you care?
Amanda starts backing away. Trevor fishes into his pocket and removes his wallet. The flip phone falls out onto the ground. He opens the wallet, revealing a badge, then quickly returns it. She halts.
Look, I'm a detective. Do you know a senior named Ross Hubert?
Maybe.
Well, he's currently under investigation, and we'd appreciate it if you just stay away from him.
Good tip. Thanks.
Amanda, listen to me. Whatever you do, don't get in that car with him tonight. Do you understand?
She stares at him, dumbfounded.
Who are you?
I'm
He moves in closer to her.
I'm here to save you.
She edges away from him, cautiously, warily. Frightened now, she suddenly breaks into a mad dash. He chases after her. Seconds later, he stops, feels his pocket. No phone. Then the other pockets. Panicking, he heads back where they had been standing and scans the ground. He finds the phone, snatches it up, and resumes the chase. Far into the field, Trevor has lost her in the crowd. He searches frantically. He grabs a passing student.
Do you know where I can find Ross Hubert?
Natalie, can you get that?
Ross, I just saw him right over there.
Trevor gazes out towards the ticket booth, sees students going to and fro, but which one?
There, red jacket.
Trevor quickly darts through the crowd, following the red jacket. Ross Hubert, 18, heads for the student parking lot. His arm is around Amanda. Trevor doubles his speed. In the parking lot, the Chevy pickup revs its engine. Ross is already behind the wheel, window down, shouting to another driver.
Don't you know it? That's where we're headed to.
It's gonna be great.
See you there.
Ross takes a swig of beer from a can. Trevor, panting, runs over to Ross's window.
Ross, you can't drive in this condition. Do you hear me? You need to get out of the truck. Who the hell are you?
He's a detective. And a creep.
Ross sizes him up.
You sure?
Only the creep part.
Ross revs the engine loud and hard.
I don't know.
He flings the empty beer can out at Trevor. Ross spurts forward, nearly hitting pedestrians, then brakes. Trevor shuffles over to the passenger side. Amanda's window rolled down.
Amanda, please, don't drive with him. Please.
What is your problem? Freaking weirdo.
Ross edges forward, maneuvering through the students.
Ross, just go.
Near tears, Trevor reaches in, clutching her arm.
Amanda, I'm trying to save you.
Ross lays rubber as Trevor struggles to keep up, his hands outstretched for Amanda. She turns her head, watching him, a look of confusion and concern. Then they are gone. Trevor squints, focusing on the license plate. In pure panic mode, he runs back toward the school. On the school grounds, Trevor reaches out to stop anyone he can get his hands on.
Do you have a cell phone? Can I borrow your phone? Please. This is an emergency. Anyone?
Someone stops and hands him their phone.
Thanks.
He dials 911. It rings.
911 operator, what's your emergency?
There's a drunk driver who's going to get someone killed.
Sir, can you give me your location?
Please, you got to stop him and make things right.
Trevor slows down, catches his breath. Perspective sinks in. Insert Amanda's smooth and pristine face, hateful expression, shouting and cursing.
Sir, what is your location?
Trevor can only stare at the phone, conflicted with inner turmoil. Insert Amanda's face, scarred and disfigured, but smiling and jubilant, a gentle laugh.
Sir, are you there?
Trevor, in a daze, hangs up, hands the phone back to the student. Exterior car crash scene in the evening. Ross's truck is embedded in the large tree. Flames, screams. Amanda flings open the door and falls to the ground, her hair and face on fire. Trevor suddenly breaks out in tears, wailing. He stumbles forward through the crowd as they part and clear a path for him. Interior school restroom. Trevor, sniffling, pulls the bodysuit and helmet from the bottom of the garbage can and turns for the same bathroom stall. Internal, Stefan's warehouse lab during the day. Trevor sits in the metal chair, his head down, as the arches glow dims and the machine's hum slows. Stefan rushes over to him, raises the helmet's visor.
Did you get there in time?
Trevor nods.
And you stopped the accident, no?
No.
But why?
Trevor removes the helmet, hands it to him, and hands him the flip phone. His eyes cross, he loses his balance and faints, falls from the chair. Stefan kneels to help. Interior banquet hall in the evening. Trevor, dressed in formal wear, steps on stage and takes his place behind the microphone.
I am honored that Van has chosen me to present this coveted Technotics Foundation Award. I am doubly honored to be in the company of my lovely wife, Amanda.
He points to her at a table. Amanda, scarred face, wearing a striking evening gown, smiles and nods. Audience applauds.
This year, the Technotics Foundation has selected Stefan Botkin as the recipient of $1 million grant to acknowledge his outstanding achievement in technological advancement.
More applause.
Raised in 3 separate foster homes in 3 different European countries, Stefan's beginnings were harsh and unimaginable. But sometimes life's cruel twists can transport you to unexpected heights.
Trevor halts the speech as his eyes meet Amanda's. He stares for some time. She smiles adoringly.
God can only do that. He has the uncanny ability to get the most astounding results from the worst possible calamity.
Tears well up in his eyes.
No matter how desperately hopeless life may seem, we can trust God to work everything out. The good, the bad, all of life's cruel twists, and watch him turn a curse into a blessing.
All right. Great job. Great job, Lee. Thanks for taking that on at last minute and reading all of that.
Let's
And
do it.
Maddie for taking on a whole nother role. Great job. Everybody, good job. Thank you. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. I don't want to take too much of everybody's time, but let's start with, so I was going to start with Dal, but Shelly, if I can just ask you a few questions about writers. So one second, let me pull up my other thing here. Okay. So I was going to ask Dal like what inspired the script, and what he already knew about screenwriting before putting this story to the page. Couple other questions I had was like, what is your goal for the audience? And after you write a script, what are the steps that you take to get it out to potentially be made into a movie? And how would you work with a producer? But I don't know, Shelly, if you can speak to just a little bit about like, what inspires you, what helps you choose an audience, and how do you work with a producer? And by the way, industry pros that I'm calling you guys, if you guys would just take a few minutes each to kind of answer some questions, and then we'll also do a Q&A if there's some time at the end here. But Shelley, do you have anything you can speak to?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, great acting. I was like totally into it. I turned off my screen, but I was definitely engaged. What is the length of that script? Is it
30,
because it's not
sorry, 33 pages or 32.
got it. Okay. So yeah, I was curious about that, of whether it's supposed to be like a first episode maybe, or a feature, not a feature, obviously, that's only 2 hours, but or just a standalone short. But I really loved that concept. I was totally, yeah, into it. Did not know, didn't see the twist coming at all. So, yeah, absolutely love that. I think for me, at least, when you get an idea for something like that, you know it's good when it won't leave you alone and you're like, ooh, I could do that. I could do that. Like sometimes I try when I get an idea, I try not to write it. And then if it won't leave me alone, I'm like, okay, this is really good because things keep like occurring to me that there could be this twist, or there could be, there's more to it, or sometimes you just get an idea and you're like, that's super fun and I'm just gonna write it. I don't even know what's gonna happen to it, but I'm just gonna get it out. And so yeah, I've not been super great at next steps once I write something. When I was starting out, I mean, you can write query letters to producer or production companies. And when I started out, I would just do that. And then if I didn't get a response, I would kind of be like, well, I don't know, and just kind of set it aside and write something else. And you can enter contests also, and that's actually done well for me. But the biggest thing I think was to actually go and start meeting people at film festivals. So that was when I wrote a script that actually got nominated for some awards, and I was able to go to those film festivals where it was nominated. And then I just started meeting people in the film industry, and that is the single thing that did the most, I think, for knowing what those next steps are going to be. And I used to think, okay, you just write it and then you send it off to Hollywood. and then it's none of my business what they do with it. And I'm finding now that it's way more collaborative than that. And you have to think like a producer and think about the budget and think about all these things. So it's just stuff that happens when you're as a process of doing it. So yeah, I have been aware of Dale. We've known each other and we congratulate each other. I hear that he's nominated for something, and I'm like, congratulations, Dale. So I don't know that we've ever really hung out in person, which is weird, but we're kind of in the same world, I guess. So yeah, I was super excited to listen to something that he had written, and yeah, I can see why he wins awards. So
It's very cool. Well, one quick question. I was thinking as I was reading the script, I'm wondering if Dale wrote it or if this is just something that you as a writer think of. I know you think of budget and things like that, but at first when I read it like quickly through, I saw the car explosion, and then later on I was like, wait a minute, I don't think he actually had the car explosion in here. I think he just more like alluded to it, like we know that it happened. But then I realized he did actually put it in there. But let's just pretend he didn't. Let's just pretend he alluded to it. My question is, would you write something where like you might not put something that would be like a high budget thing in there and then let the producer decide whether they should do that thing or like or not? Does that question make sense?
yeah, you can actually shoot yourself in the foot if you put too many high budget. When I've kind of looked into that and what are the most high budget things to do. And really, if you just have one or two high budget elements in there, that's fine. But if you have like a crowd scene and kids and animals and an explosion, it adds up really quickly. But like I talked to somebody, he's like, well, I have a school in my script, and that's going to be a really hard location to get. And I just was like, well, set a bunch of it at the school. You're going to have to get that location anyway. Or, you could set it in a different location, but alternatively, if you have to have a school anyway, use the heck out of that location while you have it and do the hallway and the out front. And, it's kind of, if you have to have a high budget element in there, it's like, let's stretch it out and get as much bang for our buck as we can. And I think, yeah, it would be, I think I would write it where you could film the explosion or not, and then leave that up. I've actually talked to a producer once. I was writing something for him, and he gave notes, and he said, um, yeah, do this and this, and then let's have him set. There's a robot in it. He's like, let's have him, but it looks like a person. He's like, have him set him on fire. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's so high budget to me. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I've set somebody on fire before. It's actually not that expensive. So I don't know. At the end of the day, what I think is high budget, but that got to be his call and not mine. So it's like, okay, film this right you want. So yeah, apparently some stuff not as budget as you think for computer graphics. I did talk to somebody, an actress who was in a short film, and it looked like the car was on fire, and it wasn't. They did completely computer animated computer graphics or something. So it's like, hey, some stuff is really possible.
Yeah, very true. Just side note, I watched a presentation last night where the speaker was talking about Fred Rogers and other people who have passed on C.S. Lewis, and he had an AI video of Fred Rogers walking down an AI generated neighborhood, and he had Fred Rogers sitting in a AI generated hospital room, and all these visuals that like never have, well, they happened, but like it's not possible for him to go get B-roll of that stuff, as he's telling the story. So it was kind of interesting, and I loved it and hated it at the same time. So it's kind of interesting, but
Right.
yeah, and I'm not going to speak as a producer because I'm going to let Shane do that. But I will say it was interesting seeing like, oh shoot, there's a wedding scene and there's a prom, and But thankfully, we've got a lot of good friends with good venues. The school is not one I have a connection to, but wedding venues I do. So anyway, but Shane, can you tell us a little bit like, what are the steps you would take as the producer of this film, and you work us through all this?
Sure. So I'm Shane McMullen. I'm a film producer director. I do a lot of doc work and travel international and shoot projects that way. Um, so on something like this, from my first step would be legal and document type work. So I'd have to work on figuring out whatever the writer option is for the film, what type of agreement Dale would want, if this is just something where he would be donating the script for use, or if he wants to get paid for it in some way, or some stuff like that. I'd be looking at what would be called chain of title to make sure that he wrote the script and those types of things. So assuming all of that is good, and we move into the next part of like we would go into like breaking it down, as Tara mentioned a little bit, and trying to figure out exactly like how many actors in there. I think there's probably about a dozen named parts in the script. I didn't do a full breakdown. I just read through it. There's probably, I think, around 11 or 12 locations in the script. Some of them are combined in one house. Hopefully you can find a house that has the right look for all the different places you want to film in. So we so I'd be breaking it down for that, like how many cars do we need, how many extras are needed for the wedding scene. Can that be filmed in a way where it focuses mostly on uh, Amanda and Trevor and away from the bridal party and the crowd and everything else? And you might be able to shoot it in an environment that seems like it's a big wedding and it's really not, to avoid the crowds. The school scene, um, party, drinking, prom night, that's kind of a pretty big night with extras. So there's several big extra scenes that we'd have to figure out how to handle. So that would be my next step, would be working through like what is all that. And then from there, once we kind of, and talking with the director, talking with the DP, and figuring out what is needed from that, talking with like Brandon and Joy about the visual effects component, how much of that can be visual effects, how much of it has to be practical, and what does that look like. We have special effects, we have makeup effects, we have the time machine effect and the time machine costume, which would be a custom costume of some sort. So I would be going through all of that and talking with the creative team and trying to figure out, okay, guys, how do we approach this, to determine like where we're going to land on our budget? Are we doing this as a work together sort of fun project as a group of people? Are we working on this for a paid project, some sort of calling card project or something like that, where money is going to be behind it for purposes? Because that's going to determine how you think about some of your solutions. So those are all of like my initial reaction to the story. And once I talk to the creative team and we get some ideas about how we're going to film certain stuff, then you start breaking all those elements down and ascribing a price to it, and whether it's pizza for everyone, or if we're going to start raising money and going down that road. And if you're going to look at raising money, then you have to look at viability of script for sale, like who's the audience, where's it going, and those types of things. So that's my general overview of like, that's what I would think about with the project. So what are your next questions, Sarah, or anybody else?
Yeah, that was really great. I especially was really interested in hearing how you would work with like the effects people and director and everybody. What crew roles would be really important to you? I mean, besides the ones you mentioned, like what like could you not live without?
They're all important. Everyone's important. For this one, I would just be looking at the keys. So, I'd be looking at the DP and Eric, and I'd be like, hey, what's your optimum crew for this? Can you do it with a 4-person team, a 5-person team? Are you going to shoot 1 or 2 cameras or whatever? Are we doing steady cam? Do we need a steady cam op or any of that type of stuff? Or drone, because there's an exterior of a car in traffic. So I don't know if that's drone or if that's, side of the highway type stuff. So that would be a question for him. For Jason, it would be kind of in the directorial perspective of like, do we want to expand any of the roles, which goes towards rewriting the script? Like, Stefan's character is very interesting, but he doesn't get a lot of time in the story, and we really don't know what motivates him to create this thing. So there's some questions like that. And, key makeup would be important. And with the extras, you'd probably need some, either everybody would have to do their own makeup, or you'd have to have some sort of assistance to help the makeup department so they could get through those big extra scenes. Especially if you're getting people close to camera. Some people you can just say, do your own makeup and we'll just once over later. And then the other part would be talking to the visual effects guys and saying, how are we going to pull these scenes off? And again, it's budget question. Are we doing the time machine where, he's going to be sitting there and the camera's going to be moving around, and we're doing a bunch of tracking and some other things, and then it's just going to disappear and we're going to have this really big moment? Or, are we going to do it where it's just, you see him sitting there, it cuts to Stefan, there's a flash of light, and next thing you know, your match cut and he's in the bathroom, and you just use some light flashes and you just do it real simple. So there's ways to get around that. So you have to ask some questions and talk to the visual effects and the director and say, well, how do you see this creatively working out? And then start seeing how much it'll cost. And depending on what those conversations are from Brandon and Joy would determine if you can do that or not, cost wise. So I know we have a burn effect. So, how is that done with the actors? And how are you going to do the guy dying in the car on fire scene? And is that visual effect only, or is that a mix of practical and visuals and some things like that? So you really have to talk to the visual effects team and get their perspective.
Yeah, very good. Cool. I had one other question real quick for you because um, there are some other people on this call who are very interested in producing. And I guess my biggest question is like, when you are, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong question thing. Okay, here we go. When you're like creating the budget and a breakdown and all of that kind of stuff, I know you said you would have to really talk to people, to get those, to kind of figure that out. But I don't know about you, but a lot of times writers will come to me and be like, hey, can you read the script and tell me what the budget would be for this? I'm like, okay, like ballpark. I don't even know where to start. But do you happen to kind of see like a budget for this right now, or like how would you go about finding that?
It's really about audience and what you're trying to do with it. Because, for example, if you were going to look at this and you're going to be like, hey, are you going to put named talent into it, for example? You know, sorry, Corey, I'm going to use you as an example. Stefan, like if you're going to take Stefan's role and you wanted to put John Rhys Davies in it or something like that, some quirky old inventor that made this thing, right? His rate is going to be 25,000 a day, you know what I mean, or something probably, for someone like that, maybe even more. And so when you ask about budget, it's questions like that where you're like, well, okay, we're not going to go for that side of things. We're going to go for like people we know and doing it with what we've got, and that changes how you adapt your budget. You can go look at the minimums for the tiers for films like ultra low budget production, and check out the union rates, and you can come up with budget tiers for that. So you can figure out how much camera operators make, how much for scale and stuff like that, and you can find that stuff online. That will kind of give you ideas. And so if you can get how many days of production you're going to be in for this, I would just say if you're just shooting at a narrative pace for normal narrative drama work, 4 pages a day is a normal pace without really trying to do a whole lot for the story. That you're looking at 8 days of shooting or something like that for it. So that can and if you can start breaking down the pieces that you have, like, I know I need a DP, I know I have a director, I know I have makeup, I know I have these roles, and you just start looking at their scale rate, you can come in and be like, okay, if everybody gets paid approximately $35 an hour and you shoot a 12-hour day and you've got a team of 35 people on it, you can come into a budget number and you multiply that by how many days you've got, and then you have to add in food and lodging and fringes if you have people coming in, like your stuntmen who are coming in from out of town or something like that, or your pyro effects and stuff, and what does it cost for those types of things. And so you just start layering it up from there, and you'll get a number. So I'll just do it real quick. I didn't add this up earlier. So let's say you do a 12-hour day times 35, and that's times, we'll just say, an average of 30 people, and times 8 days. So you get $108,000 off of that number using SAG or union ultra low rates. So it gets expensive real fast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it's like, well, I don't have that. So what do we do now? And so then you have to start saying, okay, can we shoot faster? Can we, and so that goes into that whole conversation about, what are we trying to accomplish with the film? Is this going in as like an anthology series of an episodic series where we're going to shoot, 10 episodes that kind of have similar theme and put it into a series or something to try to sell? Is it going to be expanded out to a feature script, again, to go to market so it has viability out in the market? Or are we just doing it as a short film just for fun? So those are questions that you kind of have to work through to determine like really what you're looking at. When we did our ultra low film several years ago, we shot for 7 days. It was a feature. We had a small crew of like 12 or 15 on it, plus a few cast, but everybody knew what they were getting into. We told them what the expectations were. There wasn't any surprises, and we just pushed it out. That's not something you can do all the time, and it's not. And so we ended up doing it for like less than $20,000. But again, that's not something that you can do all of the time, and you have to really set expectations with people. And everybody we were working with were friends or knew us, and so everybody was okay to go through that situation. That's not always the case when you work on stuff. So you have to be careful with that.
Absolutely.
So,
Awesome.
if that helps. Did I answer that?
Yeah, definitely. And if you guys have questions, save them. So we'll do a Q&A at the end too, if there's some time, or if they have time. Let's go over to director for a minute. So Jason's filling in. I know you guys haven't heard from him in a while on directing, so I figured it'd be okay since Jason Munden had to back out. But so Jason, what are some steps that you would take as the director of this film?
It's kind of like, a lot of what Shane said. It's kind of the same thing. But looking at this script, I would just do a script breakdown. I'll be working with the DP and the producer and the writer very closely, trying to figure out, budget and everything. But I think for this one, I would probably I would look at those tougher scenes, like how Shane said, like with the time machine, all those ones that need special effects, and kind of try to figure out, are we going to try to make them really go heavy on the special effects, or are we going to just make it simple? So I'll probably break down those scenes first just to kind of figure that out. And first steps, I would, and also like working with I'd find a DP with Eric. I would be knowing since I've worked with Eric before, and I know and trust him. I would kind of like rely a lot of the visuals, like we just trust him to get the visuals, and I would try to really focus on the story. Sorry, I'm reading the questions and it's distracting me, but I'm just like, because I'm trying to go ahead. So I would try to like have him kind of worry, have my DP really worry about the visuals, and then I can focus on the story and trying to get from this one scene to the next. And like for me, like I feel like there's directors that really storyboard and get everything laid out. I'm very fluid. Like I like to have everything planned out and then leave it at home and go and figure it out that day. I like kind of things like happy accidents. That's just fun for me, and problem solving the day of. So I feel like I'm a little more of a chaotic director in that sense. Some people might be stressed out by it, but I think it's fun because you get to problem solve and do all that. So it's hard for me to really plan too much. I like to get the ideas and everything planned, but then like the day of, let's see what we got, with the location, or is it, if it's raining that day, is that going to change stuff? I hope to answer the question.
Yeah, definitely. What are some crew roles that would be really important to you or people that you would be working closely with?
And that's also kind of what I want to have. I would really obviously the DP really important. I'd really want to if we have a budget for it, like to have a gaffer. A lot of times the DP will double as the gaffer. I'd really also a crew that I feel like gets forgotten a lot on a lot of small sets is the sound engineer. I'd really want to make sure we focus on having good audio. And yeah, I think those between having good audio is going to be really important. Yeah, and it's really for me as a director, like I do DP and directing, and I probably lean more towards DP. So it's a little hard for me to stay back and let like that's like does not to not like jump into that role. So as a director, I would yeah, it's kind of like I really focus on the visuals like that.
Well, what are some things that you might do that are like maybe not in the script? Like did you see anything here that weren't in the script that you're like, oh, we could do this, or some creative choices you'd make?
Yeah, if we're yes, like I would obviously talk to the knowing what do we have permission to change, and like on and I would say that most of the time we are going to have to make changes like day of, or just budget reasons, like we weren't able to get a certain location, so we had to make small adjustments. So I'd always be prepared to make those quick adjustments. And one thing is that like I might change, I'm just trying to think for like we could not be at a school, we could change the prom could be more of like it cannot be a prom. It can be because like they mentioned in the field. So my head, high schoolers we're in Florida, like I'm from Florida. They always partied in fields in the woods. So you can change it to like a party instead of a prom to really kind of lower the budget a lot. That's some things that I would change, and like an aspect just to save money. I'm not story wise. I thought it was pretty solid. I didn't see anything that I would want to like just immediately change.
Sure, sure. What are some things that you look for in actors?
So yeah, I look for an actor that's obviously gonna have, that's gonna be able to show the emotion that needs to be conveyed. And an actor I like an actor that that's studied the role and kind of embodied that person. And so that after we shoot it, from the script, like, hey, like, what do you have? Like, do you have any ideas that from this character? Like, let's just do a different creative way. Like, let's just see what you have. I like the actor to kind of come through with that character and kind of show their vision with it. And also like for me, like and this is what like I think Corey, as I worked with him, like he's really good at is when he's delivering his lines, everything he's doing with his hand. If he does something, he picks a pen up and holds it while he's talking, and then puts it down. Every time he does that, he does it at the same time. So he's consistent
every take, he does it the same way.
Every take he's going to do that same motion. So someone that's really consistent is going to really help us in the editing to put that together. So that's really good when we have an actor that can really can do that. Yeah.
Corey did it with a fidget spinner on our set, and that was impressive. Like, I think he did it the same angle every time. I'm just kidding. Maybe not that far, but you're really good at that.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, like I would say, like as a director, I mean, I'm would be like obviously kind of make sure the story's going well. I would really like I'm like like I think this like it's like I've heard this from a lot of people, but it's problem solving. That's what we're like. We're there to make sure that if anything, like we gotta get everything done and we gotta make a decision quickly. And because every time we shoot, there's something that changes, and we have to figure that out. Um, it's nice to work with. I'm used to working by myself a lot of things, so like I'm used to doing a lot of things. But when we get to work with people that know what they're doing, it's really fun just to like let like someone like Eric just jump in, and then I can really focus on like just like telling a story. Um, so yeah, like I think like when you get your department heads, you get really good, DP, gaffer, audio engineer, like you really can do a good job because you don't have to worry about anything.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah. All right. And let's go to director of photography. So Eric with a K. Um, what would you do? What's the first thing you would do as a DP on this?
Well, what would I do? Well, I would line the script. I would read the script for the first time, just like put this on here. Look at the script here for a second. Just like, I mean, like Shane was telling us just a moment ago, when he gets the script for the first time, he breaks it down into things. I can look at the script through different lenses. I can look at the script through a producer's lens, through a DP's lens, through a director's lens, as an actor, actress, as a first AD, first assistant director. I mean, everybody has their own role in putting this together, and everybody looks at the script, obviously. And I think the most important thing, and I can tell you, when I listen to Frank Kahlo give those little speeches during those film festivals, he says no matter what you do on the set, you got to know your script, because if you don't know your script, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's important to know the script. As a DP, I would line the script, and when and hands, if you on visual, do you know what that means when I say line a script? Do I see any hands? I see okay, that's two, maybe three hands. Lining a script, and I don't have a script, but I just showed this piece of paper. This is a script from a PBS thing I'm working on, but I would draw lines during the dialogue, and let's say there's two people talking back and forth, right? And they are in a particular situation, in a space, either sitting or standing, or one standing and one sitting. And I would line all the way down to this during the whole dialogue, which that line is going to get my wide shot. And then I'll look at the breakdown on the characters as they're going back and forth in their dialogue. I would then decide, okay, for this particular dialogue, I want to be on a medium shot, or I don't know, on a tight shot, or I want to be on a shot not necessarily on the person who's talking, but I want to be on a reaction shot. So what I do when I break a script down as a DP, I would line the script, and I would sort of like use that as my foundation of my shot list of how the shots are going to get together. And of course, all this, there you go. Who's holding that up? Is that Tara? Yeah. Good. There you go. See, that's what it looks like when you line a script. Now, gosh, I just lost the train of my thought. What was I
Sorry.
saying?
This is like I have a line script, so sorry.
That's right. That's all good. She was just on the roll. I looked up and said, yeah, that's it. That's it. Lining a script, and then what was I saying? Can anybody kind of give me a reminder? See, this is what happens when it's late and you're getting old.
Lenses and different shots and let's
Yeah.
You
um,
said it would be the foundation for your shot list, and you would start working from there.
Thank you. Who was that? Is that Shane?
Yes.
That's right. That would be my shot list. And all this stuff, when we're sitting down and we're looking at the script for the first time, this is all. I've not heard this mentioned yet from the rest of you guys, that what we call pre-production is vital. It is so important that we spend time and money. It costs money for pre-production times as well. As as a producer, you got to figure in, okay, how many people will this take? How many times do we need to get together? Not just for this one, a table read with all the characters, all the actors playing the characters. This is all part of pre-production. And then another thing that's very important for pre-production for the DP, who is the visual person, who has the eyes, who works with the director or the writer. Often the writer is a director, but perhaps the writer might not have the skills it would require as a director, leadership skills, and being able to direct the cast with their, helping their performances, is that we need to go out and find. Uh, for me, as a visual person, I need to go out and find a location and find the space we're going to be shooting in, so I know how I'm going to be lighting these things. And then another very important aspect, a part of the pre-production phase, is you kind of sort of figure out your blocking. And there's people who do it all different ways. There's DPs who have charts, who have these little storyboards where they have little circles and they have pretty much a top-down view of the space of the room. And then you have your certain characters, and then you draw little circles or little arrows and where they're walking to and from. Let's say, for instance, the first scene starts off on the outside, and then you get what's his name, Trevor, pushing his way through the main office. So I'm thinking about a Fisher dolly just following, or a Steadicam or a gimbal or whatever kind of money we have. If Shane allows me to have a Fisher dolly, that's great. We'll get that in, and we'll just lay some tracks and get him just running, not running, but walking with purpose through this big office. You can see all these little cubicles with the walls, and everybody's on their phones or computers or whatever into his office. And then from there, he's in there. The other guy's still on the phone talking. And then he's just pacing around, looking at the shelf, looking at different things. So you got to figure out, okay, how are we going to block this? Now, often a director will sort of decide how the scene is going to be blocked. He or she then is going to talk to the DOP or the DP, as you say, and then they will figure it out. Okay, what would be the best way to block this scene? Because visually, it needs to kind of make sense, and it also has to be something that can be done quickly without wasting time, because again, Shane is going to sit there and says, come on guys, you're costing too much money, we need to keep it down to a certain time, because every time you waste money trying to figure out what to do. I've been on so many sets where we just like wing it, we just improvise, we just say, okay, what are we going to do now? I don't know, let's find out from the director. I've been on many of those things, and that kind of situation, makes me as a DOP, or if I were to be a director or something like that, learn to be fast and make decisions and walk on a set with with the with an ability to be very certain about things, instead of just trying to, to have a purpose and to appear like you know what you're going to be doing, because it helps the others to sort of follow you. If you're a follower, you follow the leader, and if you have good leadership skills, then you need to just walk in and have a plan already set. You might not even know yet what you're going to do, but at least appear like you know what's going to be next, and make everybody feel at ease. So that's usually something that's important for a DOP as well, working with the director and kind of know, okay, I'm going to shoot it this way. I think I'm going to just do it like this. And often when I shoot a scene, and I don't know, I'm sure some of you have seen Abandoned, this thing that's just going crazy on Netflix, which is a 4-part series. And each series is anywhere from 48 or to 52 minutes long. It's all a single take. The camera never cuts. It's all continues. It's one huge take. The camera flies around with the gimbal. It's actually shot with a DJI 4D. And then when the camera goes, gets people going into the car, and then all of a sudden the camera just flies off. I'm thinking, oh my God, how is this possible? Well, guess what? They put the camera on the bottom and the belly of a drone with either a magnet or some sort of a thing. And then the thing flies off, and you have 2 guys working the controls to get that. So that whole thing was done in one single take. And what that reminds me of is, if you ever been on stage working as on a stage in a play, you only get that one shot. You only have that one single take. You have a live audience, and that's your camera. You don't cut after each bite. You don't cut after each line, I should say, on a set in a narrative. You show the whole thing. You got the whole stage. And so what I like to do is, when I'm pressed for time, when I see a lot of back and forth, I'd like to be able to, when I line the script, have, maybe if there's 2 people, let's say that scene on the park bench, for instance, in the city park, I can probably knock that out in one single shot. just to really move quickly, and it was just a wide shot from the front, and then I want to get a couple of over shoulders or even some French overs, and that's from behind, and switch around just like a bar scene because they're sitting next to each other. It's not an office scene, it's a bar scene. So you have the ability to move around almost anywhere in space. You can cross the line if you need to, but if you have an office scene, then that 180 needs to be, it's important that you keep that same side of the dialogue of the two people. So that's me rambling about what I would do with this script. What are the other questions? How would you, yeah, how would you work with the camera operator and director? That's a good question. Again, I think I talked about how I would work with the director, trying to get his or her visions, because he may have written the script, or even if he hasn't, then I'm sure that the director will have a good idea of what it's going to look like. So we collaborate on those things. And if I were to have the luxury of having a camera operator, and I've worked with on some sets where I was lucky enough to have an op, and I just basically sit in a chair, have a cup of coffee, and just tell them where to go and do everything. And I just sit there and just be a manager or a leader in this case, and that's nice. Again, I like to give my operator the freedom to say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" or "What do you think of that?" I said, "Oh, let me see it. Sell it to me. If I'm going to buy it, good, let's go for it. Just sell me whatever you got." And I'll buy it. And I did the same thing to the director. I try to sell him a shot, and then if he or she buys it, that's good. Then we'll move on. How many camera setups for the first scene, or talk to through some of the filming? Okay, some of the scenes. Okay, well, the first shot where the outside is just a quickie. It could be Shane. I'm on a techno crane for the first exterior shot of the office. But then when we see
Great.
him,
Do it.
pardon? What's that?
Do it.
Do it,
Techno
man.
crane.
We have $27 million to spend. And so then him walking through the Trevor's office when he's walking through the office, that's a single shot. Then he walks into the how many setups, and then he walks into what's the guy's name? Trevor, it's the other guy's name. Norm. Yes. Norm is on the phone. So you see Norm, of course, there's a wide shot establishing, so we know the space. And then I will probably go into maybe as little setups as I can and just get that out of the way quickly. I don't think I want to spend too much time on that. And of course, there's a dialogue that Norm has to do, and we can see that. And we can see him in the foreground shooting wide up close where we can see the space, and he can be on the phone. We can see him, and we can see Trevor in the background just walking around out of focus. We can see that, or we can do deep focus where we can see the whole thing. It's either or. So that's that question about how many setups I would. Are there any creative choices you'd make beyond what's scripted? There are always going to be some creative choices to make when you're seeing something that normally would be a very boring scene. Let's go to the ice cream parlor, for instance. They're sitting there having ice cream, and you get that family running in there and all that. But then again, when you're seeing two people sitting at a table facing each other, as they call it, an office scene, you'll get the lingo once you hopefully get to talk to other people. Office scene is people facing each other, and then the bar scene is when they're sitting next to each other, because that's how people are usually positioned. At the ice cream parlor, it could be a bar scene. It could be sitting next to each other, or it could be sitting opposite. So that's going to be up to the blocking, up to the director. And of course, if the DOP decides, hey, I want an office scene, or I would rather have a bar scene, and if the director is okay with it, and if the space allows us to be able to do that, that's what I will probably go with. Either or, depending on the situation. What would I do here? I would probably go with a bar scene, have them both sitting next to each other, eating their ice cream and just looking at each other, but still looking straight ahead and enjoying that. And then seeing the family. And then, of course, they're looking back at her. Of course, they can see her whole face. Oh my God, what's up with her? Blah, blah, blah. So then, that again, I would probably keep it as a wide shot for the most part of them eating their ice cream, and then just popping into maybe a couple of three setups. And then a POV from the family as they were sitting far away on their a bench or seats or something, having their ice cream. And that's probably what I would do. As far as a creative shot, and, you always get to be able to improvise and throw in an extra little nugget, here and there. It's just shoot a little bit low angle or, whatever. Those are the things that one can do if the time is still available and the money is available for that. And we have, again, time is very important. And how would I envision this whole thing come to life? Well, that's again, that's probably a question for someone who the director again would have to sort of help answer that question. And again, you also talking about the person who gets to edit this whole thing. Joy, I don't know if you're still here. I think I still see your name up here. If you were to play the role of an editor, I don't know if we have an editor on our list of crew members listed or not, but I think the magic happens in the edit suite, when the whole thing is sort of put together because, you would, and of course everything is shot out of sequence. We read this thing and we think we're going to shoot it in that order. That's usually not the way it happens. So things are shot out of sequence. When you find yourself on a set, you kind of think, oh, well, this is confusing. I don't know what we're doing. Where's this supposed to go? And then another thing is also very important, and then I'll shut up, is as a DP, I have to figure out, okay, we just did this shot here. How well is that going to cut with the other setup, right? Is that going to work in the edit suite? So I already have to think edits. How is that going to flow? Is that going to work? Because I always say, if I don't see the edit in a film, then it's a good edit. If I see it, then I get jarred away and I get distracted by the edit. And then guess what it does? It takes away from the content. And everything that we're trying to do is to make this thing visually pleasing, and talking about storytelling in the best way we can is to never distract your audience from any kind of a different color temperature from one shot to another where it looks like you're watching a different movie, or having an edit in the wrong place, because editing is like, you got to get in the rhythm. This is a cadence. It's like a song. It's like music. You have to make sure you get the rhythm all the way through, because this is a song I always look at the thing as a song, because you get the rhythm. You build up in the middle and then you come back down and you have this and you have that and this other thing. So that's about my take on what I would do as a DP. If there's any other questions, I would love to have them.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I will, if anyone does have questions, we'll try to get them at the end here. Yeah, awesome. Let's see. Okay, I'm really excited about this, and I know both Joy and Brandon are experts here as far as visual effects go. And also, can you describe the difference between visual effects and special effects? I think I know the difference, but I would really love for you guys to tell me. And uh, Joy, so Brandon is in the middle of a storm too, and doesn't have power. So just to be safe, I'm gonna let him go first. But Brandon, could you tell us a little bit about what you would need to make these things happen, like the explosion and all of the things?
Yes, yes. Welcome to Catacomb Visual Effects, where the bill will be frightening. So I think for us, we'd have to understand exactly at what point we're coming into the process. I know that Eric with a K mentioned visual effects, not visual effects. He mentioned pre-production earlier. And pre-production is a critical portion of the process if you're able to be part of that. We've been involved in films before. Recently, we did some work on The Last Rodeo with Angel Studios, and we were brought in at the very end. The film was already shot, everything was in the can, and they had a whole laundry list of visual effects movies, or rather visual effects shots that they needed us to help them with. You wouldn't think that a rodeo film would have a lot of visual effects, but it actually did. Surprising number of shots. We had to touch the bulls, do rotoscoping on the bulls, the horns of the bulls, bring in set extensions, add 3D visual effects, 2D visual effects, all sorts of stuff that we had to do. But we weren't part of any of the pre-planning on that. So it was kind of like at that point, it's a list of shots you have to go do. You don't really have any input in with the director or with the DP. You're kind of just providing a service and trying to do that as best you can, trying to understand the bigger vision that the visual effects supervisor normally sets for you. By contrast, we were on another Angel Studios film a couple of years ago. It was The Shift, which was their sci-fi film that they did. And we were brought in at the earliest stage. We got to be in as a part of pre-production and talk with Brock and with the DP on that, understand their vision, help actually speak into that vision and really shape and mold what the film wound up having in terms of some visual effects. Not all, but just some of those visual effects we were able to speak into. Um, and then also really help set their expectations, which is another critical part when you are on a visual effects shoot, is helping the director, the DP, sometimes even the writer understand that, hey, for a given budget, you can't really have what you want, right? Sometimes you just kind of get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. So, you kind of have to mediate that expectation and help them to understand for the visual effects budget that you've set, there's going to have to be some give and take. Really, at what point you come into the process for us is really critical. Yeah, that would be the first determiner for us. And then what's going to be practical and what's going to be digital. Brainy Pixel, which is who I actually work with. I don't work for Catacomb Visual Effects, by the way. I work for Brainy Pixel Productions. And for us, we don't do any practical effects. Believe me, I would love to. I'd love to make monsters for a living. That'd be great, but we just haven't had the opportunity to do that yet.
Can you define for everybody real quick what practical effects are? Can you
Yeah,
define?
so practical effects are going to be things that are in the real world. So there are things that you're making, that you're building, they're masks, they're costumes, there may be pyrotechnics, maybe there's smoke effects, there are lighting effects that are on set that are in the real world, right? That you're going to shoot and try to get in camera, either as a visual effects pass or as part of the actual takes with the actors on stage. And there's a lot of blending that happens. Like for instance, on The Shift, we designed some digital assets that we shot on an LED wall behind the actors, but we actually had to match some practical effects that their art department had made and have those 3D models, which match the physical models or the physical objects, show up in the world behind the actors. So it helps you believe that the actor is in this space completely and he's surrounded by this space, which was really just a flat LED wall behind him. But we had those foreground elements and they matched perfectly with the digital elements that we had made to kind of sell that realism and that he was really in that space. So yeah, sorry, I'm rambling on. So go ahead with your questions, Tara.
Yeah, that's great. That's very interesting. Let's see here. How closely, like, I guess, what crew members do you work closely with other than the director? Are you working with DP or who all are you working
Again, for us, it really depends on at what part we're brought in to the process. Like I said, on The Shift, we were working directly with Brock. Had meetings with him, his DP, the producers. Brock was also the writer and director, so we were working with the writer technically on that at the very earliest part of the process, helping to shape their expectations and their vision, letting them know what we could do for the budget that we were given. But then on other shots, you're just really primarily you're interfacing with whomever in the visual effects world you're working with, because oftentimes there'll be lots of handoffs. You're working with a visual effects supervisor who's kind of the director of that kind of arm. But then also within there, you may be working with other studios or other individuals. For instance, when we were on the last rodeo, there were some set extensions that were made. There was a 3D rodeo stadium that was built by a company in India that we received from them as a 3D asset, but then we had to go in and texture that asset. So we had to go in and make it feel like it was not just big gray blobs and blocks. We had to texture it, light it, and add the atmosphere, and then place the 3D people inside the stadium and the 2D people inside the stadium based on the shot. So many times you're working with other visual effects folks. And like our team for the last rodeo had two components. We had a kind of a 3D blender side, which we were using 3D software to do a lot of effects and a lot of shots. And then we were actually sending that over to an After Effects portion of our team that was handling all the back end composition, all the comp stuff, all the final lighting, all the color correction and things of that nature. So even our team was kind of bifurcated. We had two arms that we were working with just within Brainy. So.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, one last question for you. How many people or how many effects people would you see like on this particular project, like for the fire?
So I think that's a great question. And I think it really depends on number one, what are the effects that are going to be visual effects and not practical. So you'd have to determine that first. If you said all the effects, then it would definitely be determined by budget. I'd have to have a chat with Mr. Shane and see what kind of visual effects budget that I had, because that's going to determine how many people I can put on it. While we all have, these these visions of what it would be like if we had everything we asked for, I have yet to be on a job where that's the case. It's never that, right? It's always about schedule and about budget. And you're going to be given a budget, or you're going to have to quote a job that is going to have to come in under a specific number, and you have to do the best job you can within that framework. And so understanding your craft really, really well, understanding what the director wants, what their intention is, and being able to deliver the best thing that you can for the money that you're given is really critical. That's the balancing act that you have to learn how to. That's the tightrope you have to learn how to walk, because you never have enough schedule. You rarely have enough budget. And if you do have enough budget, that really means that your director hasn't accurately told you what they want, because they probably want something way bigger than what they're paying you for. So
Sure. Awesome. Great insights. I definitely learned something there. Joy, can you add to that? Like, do you see any differences in your process with the effects? And I also want to know what you would do with like the time machine or something like that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
All right, cool, awesome. Yeah, so I heard you say expert a little while ago. I just want to clarify, I'm not an expert. My background is in animation, and I more or less dabble in 3D and visual effects, 2D compositing, After Effects for the past more consistently now 3 or 4 years. But it's been sort of an ongoing process for a long time. Just sort of dabbling. But the way that I would look at it from, I guess, a production standpoint is all good visual effects start with a really good practical effect. Kind of to what Eric Olson was talking about earlier, how he shoots to edit. He wants to shoot informed, knowing how it might cut together in his head. I feel like it's very much the same way for visual effects. So you're creating something, you're fabricating something out of nothing to then marry on to a live action footage. So what's really important for me, I think, is when you get on set, when you're talking to the DP, you're talking to the director, you're talking to the people that you have to talk to in order to, one, kind of, I guess, get from them their vision and sort of what they want, so that you can do your best to, I guess, fulfill that look and vision. And then two, when it comes time to film that, a good visual effects supervisor is really, really important to be on set, because especially for more like budget independent projects, I've seen people just think that computer visual effects people are just wizards at the computer. They're just creating magic or something. It's all magical in a sense, but it starts practically. You have to shoot informed, and so that's what a visual effects supervisor does on set, is having that communication with the team, and when they're actually shooting. I think two of the most important things when actually shooting and achieving these effects is, I'll take for example the fire scene, okay? Because I've done a few fire CG comps over a few different projects, so that's something I could speak to. So with fire, if we were to do it digitally as opposed to practically, I would say that if you can do it practically, do it practically. But given time restraints and budget, obviously you can't always light a car on fire, right? So I would say if we were going to do it visually, which means doing it in the computer. The way that I'd approach that, I think, is lighting is really, really, really important. So if you're adding something to the screen, especially if it's emitting light, you want to make sure that you're starting off that shot with light already being emitted. So something that I think people oftentimes do when it comes to fire, when you shoot fire practically, you're either exposing for the brightest part of the fire or you're exposing for what's around the fire. So if you were to just aim your camera at a roaring fire, there's so much light being emitted from that, it'd be washing out everything else. And so it'd really be white. It wouldn't really be orange, it'd be more white in your camera. And then you would get probably a lot of silhouette and a lot of just really dark around that fire. So that's sort of what you kind of think about, I guess, going into it is like, are you exposing for the fire or are you exposing for the people on screen? Because that's going to sort of determine what that fire is going to look like, the intensity of it all. And then, yeah, you just light the crap out of it. Like you find out like where your source is, where you're going to light, where the fire is going to be, and then you just blast light in that area. A lot of times, like one time I did, when I was doing fire on a practical set, it was supposed to be a fire in a kitchen. And so we had this like kitchen island sort of, we were shooting through this like opening in the kitchen. So I was able to hide lights underneath that, sort of shining up. So I had light splashing onto the walls and the ceiling and everything. It looked really orange. It looked really bright. But the lights themselves have a setting on there that simulates fire. So you can get that flickering. So you get that in-camera sort of flickering effect that you can later match when you add the fire elements into the scene. So that's something I would say is really important when approaching a visual effects heavy, or even not a visual effects heavy, just like any scenes in a film that might have visual effects is, going through the proper channels, finding the right people who know how to do it, and allowing them to do their job by allowing them on set. And, if there's anything, if it's like fully CG characters or anything like that, if we're going beyond just like some simple, fire elements or any sort of like light effects or anything like that, if we're talking like a fully CGI character, a lot of times visual effects supervisor on the set will have to get a lot of reference images so that they can basically recreate digitally the lighting in your scene. So the lighting in your scene is going to change from scene to scene. So you have to go and get a lot of reference. We create what's called an HDRI, which is essentially it's a high dynamic range, HDRI, high dynamic range image, I guess. Yeah. And basically it's a 360-degree spherical image that you create of your entire environment. And that's your environment lighting, which you can then take and place into your 3D software of choice. And what it does is it simulates that lighting. So it basically gives you a very accurate representation of what that light should look like. So when you light a character based off of that HDR that you took from set, all the highlights and stuff, like if the sun's coming from over here, it's going to be reflected on that character too. So the position of the lighting in the HDRI will be reflected on the character too. So yeah, I can ramble on, but I'll just leave it sort of at that.
Oh, it's really interesting. Yeah, and again, if you guys have questions for Joy or for Brandon, those are some really interesting things. I have lots of questions for you guys. But wake up a little bit. We just have a few more minutes here. I really want you to hear from Jaden and from Jason. Jaden's our FX makeup specialist. So this was really interesting to me because there's a lot of things going on here with the aging and de-aging of characters. And I think we'd have to be strategic in casting. Probably have to cast Amanda younger than I am. I don't know, unless you think I am that young, but that'd be awesome. And then also, Jason, I really want to hear from you about scoring as well, because that's interesting. And Matthew Sargent is on too. He scored Do Not Grow Weary and is nominated for an award. So yay on that. Anyway, it's exciting to have you guys on the call tonight. But Jaden, tell us what you do. What's your process for all this crazy makeup stuff?
Hello, I'm Jaden, and I am under makeup department and I specialize in prosthetic work and on-camera cosmetic work as well. And I'm also a licensed esthetician. So I would say like the first steps I would take as being a head makeup artist for my department with this script is working really closely, especially during pre-production, because I believe that essentially we become the backbone of the production as well. Um, I would say first, am I working solo or are we building a team under my department? Because I've been in many situations where I train other artists in the department or I lead a team, and that changes my role drastically, actually, from designing the makeup artistry to giving certain roles to other trainees on set. So that is really big, and that additionally falls under the budget. Um, I like to not make things seem so transactional, but budget is one of those, I suppose it could be a good conversation or it could be a bad conversation to have, because it's essentially a transactional point of view, but that's what really gets a lot of things going. And I try to help other people in the field understand that talking about budget is okay in a sense that it doesn't mask the creativity. I think a lot of people run into a situation where they have this idea of everything they want to do, but when money is involved, they kind of feel reluctant or feel like it can't be fully executed as far as like the visionary part of it. But I definitely think that with the right support, the right tools, the right conversations and communication, that things could be executed regardless of budget. But one of the things I would say under budget specifically of that is with the script, the practicality of things. So with like the CGI and visual effects. So that's another thing I work closely with because um a lot of labor will go into makeup, and makeup can be either super forgiving or not as forgiving because it is a one-time use of product each time, one-time use of prosthetics, and that eats time like evidently more than you would think. So it's always that one take wonder. So example, if a talent is supposed to look really beautiful in one scene, next covered in blood, dirt, sweat, it's really important to get with those with the shot list, because it's easier to undo something that's less than to try to, I guess the word is, it's easier to, what is it, take away or add more, something like that, than to start over, because that eats time of the coordination of the whole production schedule. And so with the budget and having the team and figuring out who has what in the position. So that's one of the steps I would say. The moving forward steps would be how many talent are we having? And I call it the condition of the set. So the conditions of the set is the quantity of talent, will there be extras, environmental issues, continuity, especially. So if somebody is like, oh, for the scars, are we ordering one prosthetic scar for one take, or do we need it just in case for 3 days? It depends the length of the shoot. Also during the inquiry of casting, I think a lot of people forget that it's really important to figure out client safety and allergies and skin conditions, because the situation with the budget is silicone appliances are the high grade movie qualities that you see a lot being more produced in the industry. The more lower quality products are going to be that latex that you see or that foam, polyfoam based materials. But if a talent is allergic to latex, that could be an issue. So budget comes in not only just for the quality of the aesthetic of the film, but for the safety, safety of the talent as well. That, hey, we need to invest in higher quality because of the safety of talents or certain skin conditions that people have. So what I do as the makeup artist in my department, I work closely with the talents to see and making like this makeup department form type of survey to understand where they kind of lay out with are they applicable candidate for this much amount of application that needs to be done, and then that is just doubled with everything else of like extras and whatnot like that. um and it causes me to work really closely with not only the director and the talents, but I find myself also overlapping departments with lighting because color grading is a really big thing. And like I said, the post-production visual effects of everything. Um, Color theory is also another big thing. Certain, and that probably could also be said with wardrobe. Certain colors and certain makeup where, how is that going to look in post? Is that going to, even just a smidge of like a color difference, is that going to make the expression of the application different? Is that going to shift the story? All those little like eye for details, it does matter. It's not usually something you think about in the moment, but it is one of those things that you realize later. And it's easier to bring it to the table first than to figure it out later. And that's one of the things I've grown to speak up about more in productions is kind of speaking about things that I think a lot of people think that when it comes to makeup department, it's just kind of like talent is in chair, we do what we do, and then we just send them out when they're for their mark and blocking. But every little detail does matter. So I do find myself working closely for sure with directors and talents. Honestly, everybody, in some way, even crafty, when our talent's going to eat, because I could put lip wear on, or you're responsible for every aesthetic appearance of it all. Nails, skin, and also if you have the budget to hire a separate hairstylist, like how do we all coordinate? What's the rotation on set, of everything like that? So I would say though those are like the key things, the key components and conversations that need to be had when it comes to the makeup department side of it.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, one quick question. Would for like Amanda, would she have a prosthetic, do you think? Say budget is not a thing. We can ask Shane. Or would it be more just like makeup? Like, what are you thinking?
If I would say if budget was balling and it wasn't a thing, definitely prosthetic, definitely high grade prosthetic transfers that are the most realistic. And the good thing about my department is we have a lot of access to certain vendors and high quality prosthetics from all over the world. I've even ordered prosthetics from Germany before, and everyone has their own unique material mixed of everything and components of all of that. So it's more of a sense of we do the research, especially when it comes to the storytelling of real things, such as the skin grafts, real skin conditions. It's important to find something realistic as possible because it is a emotional, vulnerable piece that you are telling through the screen. And especially if it is not this like full focused like fresh wound, just straight blood, and it's something that's healed, almost like the post story of that specific scar. That scar is going to tell everything about Amanda. How she took care of it, how much we colorize it in the chair is going to tell them about their person, about their healing process, and their environmental issues around them and whatnot. So investing in a high piece would be probably like be my best bet, honestly, which is usually going to be the ones that look more realistic.
Very good. Cool. Thank you, Jaden.
Yeah,
Awesome.
of course.
Again, you guys, if you have any questions for any of them, feel free to just put them in the chat and we'll see what we can do. But excited to hear from Jason, Jason Vita. Am I even saying your last name right? I'm sorry. I'm just
Either Vita or Visa. Typically it's Visa, but originally it was actually Vita. So
very cool. Cool.
mhm.
Well, cool. So you are a film composer and you do sound design, right? Am I right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we also do audio posts. You met Greg, our audio engineer.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess when do you start putting together ideas for the score of the film and
Yeah, so I like writing. I like coming up with ideas before the film has even been shot. So that's what I consider to be pre-production for me. Um, it's a really great time to develop the core themes for the story. Those are the building blocks for the score. So it's good to have proper time to get those right. Because if they're wrong, if you don't get the right essence, the heart of the story encapsulated in those themes, you're gonna, when it plays against the picture, you're always gonna feel like it's not true. Like it needs to be really in line with the story because as a composer, we're musicians, but we're storytellers mainly. So you gotta hit the story, the essence of the story. What is the heart of the story in those themes? And typically, it's collaborative. So I bounce these ideas off the directors, producers. We go back and forth. We find something that actually feels like it's meant for this world. And sometimes you can get orchestrations and soundscapes from reading a script, but not always, because it's a hit or miss. Sometimes you will actually get the vibe from reading the script, but it's your vision based on or versus what the cinematographer director has in their head. So sometimes you get the film back and you're like, oh well, this is completely different than what I was visualizing. I wrote something too dark or whatever, and you're going to have to modify whatever your orchestrations are at that point upon seeing how the camera work, the lighting, all that informs, and especially the eyes, the actors expressions really inform what the score should be. And so I like writing themes. I don't like to go too far with the coloring and style until I see a rough cut. Once I see a rough cut, then I know exactly what we're looking at, and then I build the sonic landscape from that point. And what was I going to say? I was going to say, yeah, all the three elements that really guide the score are camera work. Like you have panning, man, that's so crucial to getting. Like if the camera's going in, you want the score, the music to go in with. So all of these different facets, lighting is also very key to getting the right tone and eye movement from eye expressions from the actors, like getting the right notes to correspond to how the eyes, what the eyes tell you.
That's so interesting. Never really thought of that. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, and dialogue's another thing. Dialogue, it's not just music, to go over dialogue. It actually has to weave, through, wrap around the words. The dialogue has meter to it. There's a meter to dialogue, and you have to get the music to match this meter and to not trample on the words. It's like a character. It's the music is another character in the story. It takes turns with the actors, and it doesn't dominate, and it has its moments where it does shine, but is it's like a dance. They take turns. The music weaves in and out, and And when the actors are talking, you don't want to trample on them. You actually find ways to, bring the music in that it would kind of reiterate, in a sense, what has been spoken. Like, I find that music that really works is actually something that sounds kind of like what has already been said, but just musically. It's kind of like with the same kind of meter as what has been said. And it seems to be most comfortable and not jarring and doesn't interfere.
I had a question, if I may.
Mhm.
Jason, uh, do you think there are times where there's too much music and we need to be just quiet? I mean, what are your
Exactly.
thoughts on that?
Yes, I am. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something that I'm always thinking of. We don't want too much music because it's going to take away from the moments where you do need music, and the music that needs to elevate a moment will just be commonplace at that point. If you have music all throughout, it's littering the film. Music, you need just as many spaces and breathing room, and that's just as vital in determining those breathing spaces. That's just as vital as determining where the music belongs, because if you don't have the breathing room, it's going to fatigue the audience. It's not going to have the impact. The score needs to have proper impact, and without those breathing spaces, it's not going to resonate with people. It's
Yeah,
actually going to
I have
fatigue
to
them.
I have to agree with you when he said that the music kind of enhances the dialogue, enhances the moment of expression from a character or from the
Mhm.
situation. It just enhances, but it can also destroy things. Like you said, when
Sure.
the music overruns the dialogue or
Mhm.
just completely takes the audience, distracts the audience from the content. But if it's woven, like you said, I love the way you said that, the way the music weaves through the dialogue and
Exactly.
the way the music weaves through the visuals and the sound design along with it, the footsteps
Mhm.
through the leaves and the birds and all that good stuff that just
Yeah.
comes together. It's in a perfect marriage.
Right. And if it isn't done artistically and tactfully, you will run the risk of you will destroy your film. And
Yeah.
just think of how much time all of these all these experts, the director, the cinematographer, all these people worked on this film, and then they hand it off to the composer, and you can completely dismantle a film with your score. So that's how much, that's a tremendous burden. Responsibility is in the hands of the composer to get that right so that it elevates rather than, like, almost like I consider it like keying a brand new Mercedes right off the lot. Like, you want to really be prudent and responsible with how the themes are chosen, and make sure that everything is crafted in a way that really brings out the story and enhances the emotions, and doesn't just sit like wallpaper or like oil on top of water, but is absorbed into the scene, so that whenever people watch this film, they're not even realizing that they're hearing music. And that's the greatest compliment, when someone says, I just had an experience. I did not notice music. Because if they've noticed the music, that's actually a mark against you, except for moments where the music needs to shine. But if they're really noticing it, that could be telling that the score isn't really working.
Yeah.
But if they're feeling, that means you're doing a good job.
You got to feel the music. You don't want to hear it, you just want to feel it.
Exactly.
And it's interesting you said when you can hear the music, it's not a good thing. Just like I said earlier, if you can see the edits, it's not a good edit. You should not be
Right.
able to see the edits. If a light is seen when I work with a gaffer or I gaff myself a lot, of
Mhm.
course I got to my one-man band. So I try to light it where you don't see the light. And people says, "What? You're lighting the scene when you're going to see the light?" I said, "That's right. I want to be my light. I want this to be invisible. I just want it to
Right.
appear like it's natural. It's coming from where it needs to be coming from, just like
Yeah.
with anything else."
And that's cool. You mentioned edits. When you're seeing the edits, it might not be a very good edit, but also as a composer, it's my job to actually cushion those edits so you don't really see the edit seams as like the music runs through the edits. You're not seeing
Yeah,
those
it ties it
the
together. It
chops.
kind of ties it all together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got it. Cool.
Jason, I got a question. That was all fantastic. So I recently had to give a short film over to a composer, and he asked for things that I never heard of because I never done it before. So when you get an edit, what are some things in that rough cut that you need that are kind of essential?
Okay. Well, everything really is there because when I get the rough cut, I'm seeing what the film looks like, except for, it's going to be raw. It's not going to be graded, but at least I'm going to see visually what this world looks like, except for if it's maybe heavy VFX, I'm not going to see that until it's finished. But at least I'll see the camera work, and the camera work, like I said earlier, it really guides me. I need to see how the camera's moving, and that's how, like I said also earlier, that I have these themes that have existed from the beginning, but now I can take the themes and I can really start to work on the score once I see the edit, and then once it's locked, then I can sync. But answering your question, everything really is in that rough edit that I need to get started. And then when the edit is finally locked, I'll sync my music to that. I don't want to sync it at least to the very, frame, or to be very frame accurate. It's kind of a waste of time when you're in the very early edits because the film's gonna just keep changing, and you're gonna have to keep changing your music. It's better to have maybe a loose score at that point. And then when the film is finally locked, now I can really lock the score in. But at least I can do a lot before that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Matthew, I'm curious if you would do anything different or process-wise, or I'm just curious what that would look like for you.
Yeah, for me, when I first read the script to Do Not Grow Weary, my take is kind of like a blank piece of paper. I don't try to overthink it and develop too many thematic, like, well, we call them motifs or ideas, musical ideas. For me, for instance, the first theme or the main theme is Jason Garrett's theme in the film of Do Not Grow Weary. For instance, for example, that theme is repeated throughout, but the first time I ever wrote that was not for Jason Garrett. It was actually for the opening sequence to the drone footage above Greer. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, that's pretty cool. But then, I started developing it more and more. So sometimes themes happen during the script. Sometimes they happen after. Sometimes I start writing themes. And for Do Not Grow Weary, for instance, that was after the script. I read the script, and then the themes came later. The undertones came later. They were developed when I saw the film, and I try to watch the film at least twice without trying to overthink. Oh yeah, this needs a clarinet. No. I don't think about all the details at first. My approach is just trying to think, okay, what story am I telling with the music? What am I doing with this? With these emotions that are already created by the directors, the producers, the crew, and cast. What can I do to emphasize certain moments in the film? So yeah, for me, that's kind of my approach. I try to take it in that regard, and that I try to create not necessarily a theme for each character. That just so happened to be for Do Not Grow Weary. It was a theme mainly for Jason Garrett, but that my approach is similar to Jason's. I don't like I said, I don't try to get ahead of myself and overanalyze it first. I try to just think and watch the movie throughout, and then talk with and communicate. I think communication is important to me too. With I think I communicate with Jason Massey with where the music should go. Or I communicate with you actually. I think it was with you about the spotting sessions, which is also very important. With moving where music in, music out, music in, music out. So that's my kind of approach. But by that time, I've already have some things, and maybe Jason, Visa, you can fill in on that. I mean, by that approach, I'm already got some ideas, musical ideas. By the time the spotting session happens, I'm already like, okay, this is I've got like a theme here, a theme there, and then it develops more as the rough cut as we receive the rough cut, so to speak.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions before we wrap it up here? That was so interesting. I love this. I think it went well. I want to hear from you guys. We could do more things like this if that's helpful. I hope it was educational and interesting. So yeah, thank you so much for being on here. We'll have to let Dale know how it went and that he did a great job in his script. And any other closing thoughts, comments about the scripts or about this kind of call or the pros that we got to hear from?
Just thank you for taking the time to do this. It's been really educational and eye-opening.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been really nice.
Gotta get more of these gatherings. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool to hear from other people from different places, because it appears for me that when I'm out in the film community, I get to work with a lot of the same people, which is great because I got to know them, and I know how they think, and I know what to expect, and I know what they're capable of. Often when I go on a set and I'm completely strangers, surrounded by strangers, I don't know what they're capable of, and I don't know how to speak to them. I don't know what their experience level is. Generally, you walk on a set, it's minor league, you kind of know what's going on, and you walk onto a set that's major league, and you see the gear, and you kind of know what the budget is. You kind of already know, hey, we're dealing with people who know the ins and outs, and you know that they're going to be safe about doing things, because it's all about safety. When you carry something from here to there, it's just the life on sets. I mean, that's a whole new topic. We can maybe start a meeting on maybe talking about what it's like to be on a set, and what are the do's and don'ts, and who's doing what, and kind of sort of like let the folks who are just trying to get into the business sort of like get to learn about who's who on set, and what are the things that we need to be looking for. So I think this tonight was great. I didn't expect to be sitting here this long. I thought, my goodness, you know, I mean, the time went by quick for me, actually. It's 10 o'clock, and, I usually go to bed by 10. I'm an old guy, so I usually go to sleep early, but I'm up early.
Me too. But I'm hanging in there. It's been good.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'll see you guys around, okay?
Sounds
Bye.
good. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gary.
see you guys.
Yeah. Thank you all. Any other closing thoughts? I don't want to hold you, but yeah.
Hey, Jaden, I had a really quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? I
Yeah.
was going to ask you really quick, as a makeup artist, and a special, I guess, visual effect or special effects makeup artist, do you like? I see how like cast members oftentimes have to get to set like oftentimes hours before they're actually on like in front of camera filming, and so like, what's that look like for you? Like, you got to get there. I assume you're one of the people who gets the set earliest, and then as far as like time, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't really understand until they actually get there, and I feel like that might be sort of a frustration in your industry. It's like people not getting to set early enough when they
Yeah.
need to. So it
Yes.
kind of rushes your work, I guess.
Oh my gosh, yes. So like time, like my call time is I have never been on any job since I started this professionally that I was not there before a talent or I was not there early with everybody else. Um, a talents could be like noon call time, but I will set up like at 7 a.m. It's um I'll break it down like this. I need time to get there and set up. Um I need time to set up and start introducing my layout and my kit to prepping for talent, because sometimes I'll know like who I'll have first, but like there's not really such a breakdown. Like you have your shot list, you have your call sheet, but there's not really such a thing as hair and makeup, shot list and call sheet. And there is like professionally, but it's not really out there locally over here. Like it's not demanded as much. So as I like move forward in the business, I'm trying to introduce productions that, hey, like my department, and I'm sure many other departments, we need a hair and makeup breakdown for the time, because it's very important. Um, because we find ourselves waiting for talent to get there, and I'm not much of like a person that will just be like, okay, I'll just take whoever's ready. I like to have an organized list of, I need to get everyone who's ready, who's going to be on screen first, because it's a whole domino effect. Whoever needs costume ready will need the hair ready, and then we'll need the makeup ready. So it's a whole domino effect of everything. And another big thing about time consideration with makeup is that there needs to be an earlier, there needs to be like at least a good 20-30 minutes, if it was a perfect world, where I can have talent sit in makeup, because things are always subject to change. How their skin reacts to certain products, especially if they're wearing prosthetics. And when I say prosthetics, that's just not appliances. It could be prosthetic teeth, it could be contacts. So all of that additional time is really, really important. Because if their eyes start getting teary up, maybe a drop will go under and a prosthetic and unbonded or something. It's just, I know it sounds like that's not everyday thing that happens a lot, but it does happen though. So time is very important with whoever makes the call sheet. I depend heavily on that, and that is what turns out the whole beginning of the first half of shooting. Because I can have everything ready, and yes, it's responsibility on my part to be prepared and whatnot, but if talents are not ready, or they come in makeup when they're not supposed to come in makeup, or they just come differently than the form they filled out, that's also another thing. So with makeup on my end, it's kind of unpredictable, but like predictable at the same time. And I always want to just assume, it's always good to just assume that things are going to go exactly the ways. Also, always assuming that, leave a little grace gap for things that could go wrong as far as hair and makeup. So I always would say, like, if talent could be at least an hour after me, so that they are ready. Yeah, they might sit for a bit while camera and everything is setting up, but it's good though, and it matters because makeup could react differently. Um, change in weather could be different. Things just happen. So it's really important that not only I show up, but that talent shows up as well.
Jaden, I'm gonna say this about you real quick. Like the way you work with actors, it can be really stressful for an actor to like think through all the things. Like, okay, like you knew this on a farmhouse. You weren't there, but Joy, you were. I had to have like an allergic reaction in my eyes, and I kept telling the director like, well, then I'm gonna have to remove the makeup and then reapply it, and it could be like red, just so you know. And it's just like,
Right.
if I could just have a makeup artist on my team right now, just to tell. I mean, we had a makeup artist there, but it wasn't you, Jaden. And anyway, so I loved that. The other thing is like the 48 hour that we did. You were on set. We were all on set from like, I don't know, some terrible hour to another terrible hour, like 4 a.m.
Yes.
And so like, I don't know, 48 hours in and no sleep and no food. We were like, I remember saying to you, I like, how much time do you need on Eliana? How much time do you need? And I think you were like 30 minutes. And I'm like, make it 10. And I walked out.
No, I
But
have learned, I
you,
have learned that instead of asking me, I just say, how much time do you need? Like if they say I need it in 30, I'll be like, okay, you're gonna get it in 15. Because it's just, you always just want to, even if you feel like you genuinely can't, like you just have to, but that's only in moments where you really have to power through. But I will always say makeup does need time consideration like crazy, because like you do get what you get, you know what I'm saying? So especially prosthetics. I think Lee actually asked that in the chat, so I'll go ahead and answer that. How long it would have took to do Amanda's character with the prosthetics and whatnot. But if it's just face, maybe let's just say a quarter of the neck or less, um, and I'm by myself, I would say let's just do 2 hours. But I try to knock it down lesser than that. I always say two for max. But if it was more all over the body and I had an additional partner on my team, that's definitely something that could be done in 2 hours. So it just depends the quality of the work and the quantity of how much I have as far as time, products, and also who is on my side physically to help me with the department. But so far, I've found myself being solo a lot. So I've kind of adapted and trained myself to basically work like I have four pair of hands instead of just one. But it's always, I would say, future directors, one, always, if you can, even budget or not, at least make some type of effort to try to find more than one makeup artist, or scout hair, because hair also falls on makeup too, and that doubles the position and doubles time, product, and labor, everything. And that's, we're just trying to further maintain the quality of the production as well. And it shows, let me tell you, it shows when labor has been put all in one department in the end. It shows. So we never want to try to show that through the screen. You always just want to make sure audience didn't even realize that, wow, this must have been a lot to produce. Like, it's clean, it's good, and it's well worth watching. So I would say that.
I love it. Love it.
Jaden, could I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so as like talent, when we would come in like bare face to get makeup done, would you prefer like moisturizer early on? Oh no, like would that be something you would not want on us? I'm just curious.
What I do, part of the talent
Like
survey, is for the skincare regimen, I do have talent go ahead and proceed with their skincare regimen, because let's just say the location is an hour away from your location you're departing from. Your skin, again, it could be early in the morning, it could be gloomy, it could be dry outside, it could be really hot. It doesn't really, I would suppose, matter the difference if you came with skincare ready. My prep is always going to be different. So I always just say, come as you are with your skin regimen. Makeup, of course, don't wear makeup. But the reason why is because some talents are prescribed medical skincare regimens, such as Accutane and retinols, who have underlying skin treatments, rosacea, things like that, varicose veins. So it's really important that even if I'm telling you not to wear makeup to set, that you don't break your medical regimen that you're supposed to be on. And that's another thing that part of that survey is I will work one-on-one specifically with those who have those underlying skin conditions. And also time is really important with that, because I have to monitor the products I use, with how their body is going to react and stuff like that. Because, certain products, scents, fragrances, oils, it may not react just on the face. It could genuinely react internally, or on other parts of the body. So I would say, just shortly to answer your question, that it's perfectly fine. It depends on the artist who is going to be on set and running the department. But for me, I've always said, continue your regimen. It's always good to come with sunscreen, just in, whether you're driving or you're get some type of transportation, just in case.
I was just curious because I hear it like all the time that like sometimes depending on like what type of moisturizer you can use, it can like clash with like a foundation or concealer, like anything you're putting on top. So that's
Right.
kind of why I wanted to ask.
No, that's a
Like,
really good question. Because what I do, given that I would say minor major interference, is that when a talent comes, I actually completely cleanse their face from the products that they're currently wearing, because I may not know everything about the products that they come wearing already. So what I do is I cleanse them and I prep their skin again with the products I know that is already going to be put with other products, because I always prepare and build my kit to each talent and each actor. They have their own bag, they have their own routine in my kit. So that's actually a really good thing to point out. So I already have all of those ingredients pre packaged and pre put out. So because I'm sure you've probably heard if you wear a certain moisturizer, it could affect the formula of this makeup product. So that's a good consideration to have for artists. But I've kind of already taken count of it like future wise, because I've been in those situations where makeup did clash. So yes.
Because I've always been like scared, like, because there's been like a few sets where it's like not me doing makeup on myself, like, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to come in like absolutely bare face, no like moisturizer, like stuff like that, except like obviously like sunscreen and stuff, but like I'm scared to do that because like I don't want to make things more complicated for the
Right.
makeup artist.
And we love people like you, because that is a really good consideration to think of. So, but like I say, I always take care of talent no matter what they come in. Even if they have fresh acne pimple, they popped last night. I always have what I need in my kit to be prepared for any situation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That
Thank
is
you.
my favorite place.
Love that it's still daylight in Shelly's background. It looks like daytime, which it is for you, so that's cool. But everybody else, good night. Love you. Thank you. We won't have another meeting until May, but I know a lot of you are out of town. And if you guys would like to join in on Zoom, I'm totally open to it. I don't say it all the time because I want people to actually show up here, because we have a lot of really great fellowship and just time together here in studio. We just do a lot of cool activities and things like that. At least I think they're cool. But if you do want to just join in on Zoom, just let me know and I'd be glad to send you a link and Zoom you in. So yeah.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah.
We all have a good night.
Good night, guys.
See you guys.
Nice meeting everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Jaden.
Bye.